The paddle is only there to amplify and assist through a maneuver. It's not to create a maneuver. You're creating a line of communication with the board, and then the board will wake up, and then the board will be like, okay, I got you. I know what you're trying to say. Now I seek that lip coming at me.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Surf session. My name is Sean Cassidy, and we are chatting with coaches and athletes to stoke our passion and help elevate our surfing skills. Today's session is with my friend Jake Collard. He's the owner and operator of Oso Paddle Surf down in Nosara, Costa Rica, and he's been coaching now for almost 10 years. We talk about ocean knowledge and the importance of developing a strong but dynamic surfing stance, something that he learned through boxing and other martial arts. And he also explains how easy it can be to compete against world champions like Lego Salazar, Benoit Carpentier, and Sebastian Gomez. Todo listo? Vamos a Costa Rica. Welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, man, psyched.
Really appreciate it. Where are you, in San Jose now, or are you back in Nosara?
No, I'm back in Nosara. Got back 3 days ago. Surf is small, so just been a lot of gym and boxing training and waiting for this swell to pick back up.
Yeah, now it's been kind of a dry spell here. I haven't been in the water for at least a week.
Really?
It's been it's been either nothing or it gets big and just windy and messy as hell. So yeah, so let's, I'm excited to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, I love it, man.
And you and I have been getting to know each other pretty well over the last number of years. First met down in Nosara, spent some time in Tofino together, and as luck would have it, you're on the East Coast in Nova Scotia for a week.
Yeah, that was fun.
With me a few years back. It's been a great journey with you, so happy to have you on here.
Fun watching you progress from afar and up close, but yeah, man, I love your stoke. I love the passion you have for the sport.
So exciting. So, maybe to start out, tell us about your journey as a coach. You've been at this for a number of years now, and how did you get into that? And what's your evolution been in that vocation?
As a coach, it all comes. I think it all starts from being coached and playing football most of my life, and then into fighting and so on. Like being coached, I had an admiration for my coaches. I was very fortunate to have good coaches, and I think that was always in the back of my head, back of my mind. I always said if I couldn't be a professional athlete, I want to work with athletes. And, my window closed for the professional realm, and surfing came into my life. And really, I didn't really put it together so early. I just surfed and I fell in love with paddle surfing. I just wanted to find a way I could continue to do it. And, I could teach. Okay. And I didn't really think too much of it. And then, long story short, I just started getting pretty good at it. And I have an obsessive mind, and I obsessed about football, about fighting, about surfing, and I obsess about the technique, and I obsess about it. And I just started putting things together. Like I can obsess about something and get paid to do it.
So what was your pro career track, or what were you hoping to get into sports wise? Was it on the football side or the fighting, or both? Or
first football. Football was my first love for sure. At a young age, I got into that and I loved it. I was a bigger kid and I just loved it. I loved playing ball and I was good at it. And that was my dream, is just football. And then I went to the fighting world and the visions of potentially being, going pro as an MMA fighter, but
no way.
yeah. I had one fight, and it's funny because I did all the training for years. I sparred with really great fighters in Western Canada. I lived the life for a blink of an eye, but then there was a moment where it's kind of, is that what I want? Do I want to get punched in the head for a living? Kicked in the mouth? I was like, I don't know. Is that what I really want to do? And then I was very fortunate. The crew that I was hanging out with at the time, they were getting me into snowboarding and camping. And I really nature got brought into my life in a different way.
Right on.
And
you got out of the gym and off the playing fields into a bit of the wild wilderness.
And the independent aspect of it too, like this, and then the adventure and so on. And I paddled a few years prior to that, and paddleboarding was kind of on my mind. And then I went from Calgary, I moved out to the island and just pursued paddleboarding. Yeah.
Crazy. This is going to be so fun, man. Like all these little, you mentioned a couple things I know about you already, but a couple that are new. And like MMA, like what do you do? Kick jujitsu now or kickboxing or something? What are you primarily working in?
At the moment, I'm boxing. There's a lot more boxing going on. But yeah, jujitsu has been in my life for a long time. But then with MMA, it's kind of a mixture of things. But I had a bit of a boxing background, get into the jujitsu, and those are probably my two main disciplines, which I think is kind of like the perfect combination.
How do you find those skills in those sports translate into subsurfing, or do they?
A ton, man. A ton. Oh yeah, I think yes, I believe boxing translates fully. The stances always, when we throw a punch, the idea is to be balanced through the whole motion, right? So it's like a stroke. I want to punch through my stroke and stay balanced in a powerful position. So I do believe, for me personally, my stances, people have said that to me. They see me surf and stand, and like, oh, you stand like a fighter. And just that more forward on, the knees flexed, and just this ready to spring, that's, I do believe it has a lot. And then the footwork, moving your feet, weighting and unweighting each foot. You have to weight the front foot to shuffle the back and so on, right? So a lot of moving. Yeah, I think it's
funny you point that out, because I can picture the way you surf, and when you're driving forward or moving back and forth or turning, you are actually, now that I think of it, you're balanced through that whole movement, just like your punching that you talked about.
And that's surfing, right? It's good technique is a one technique's an accumulation of movements and fundamental movements, but in the end, it's balanced. Throwing yourself off of balance, it might look radical, like some surfers may look all kind of flared out and water spraying, but if you're not in control, it's not good technique. It's all about balance.
Yeah. And you mentioned sounded like you were inspired to become a coach based on the experiences you had being coached as probably a youth and into a young adult. What got you excited about the coaching aspect?
It was, I got into teaching. So I moved to Tofino in 2016 to teach from Victoria to Tofino. And as I was doing it, it was really cool learning about this craft as I taught it. But then I just found pleasure in seeing people enjoy the process. And then it became, and then I started working with people repeatedly, and then adding pieces to the puzzle and building the game. Just seeing people progress became, not addiction, but just really fulfilling as well. And that's what I love to do. And now that's where I'm at is, what I'm trying to do is create my community of athletes and help them all progress and just watch them progress. And again, it's selfishly, it's, you're seeing your work in them.
Very cool.
But then you see them, like watching you, like have a question, this and that, and then it clicks. And then so on with Heather. And so like all these athletes I get to work with. And it's just so fun. And that's why I really enjoy it, because I love changing, I know the power of surfing, and it can be life-changing, and it can really, a couple tips go a long way and ignite the fire and the stoke, and people are excited, and why not be a part of that?
That's cool. It almost like compounds. Like you can be on your own journey. I'm on my own journey, right? And I'm excited about all these steps and whatnot. And you get to participate or empower a bunch of journeys, which I can see that being very, very cool.
It's so fulfilling, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many years have you been sort of coaching in a professional capacity, I guess? Yeah,
probably this is proper. I'm going to say this is my 6th year of proper coaching. I've been teaching for 10 years. I've been teaching, 10 years now, just over 10 years, but like proper coaching, the 6.
What does proper coaching mean? Because I would have guessed 10 or more, because you've spent a bunch of time in Nosara, Costa Rica, coaching in Tofino as well, I think, for different outfits.
Yeah, I think I've been teaching, and again, I started coaching 10 years ago, but I really dove into it properly with this intention of Coach Jake. Like this vision of, I went 6 years ago, it was kind of like this, this is where I want to go. This is who I want to be and accomplish, and really took the coaching and studying and learning how to be a good coach. and taking that more serious and trying to create something on my own. I've been very fortunate to work with other outfits, but I just, to just kind of create my own thing and set myself apart a bit.
That's cool. That's an exciting journey. We'll dive into that a bit more later. I want to hear about your current project and
definitely
teaching and all that stuff. But so 6 to 10 years of teaching, and then how long have you been sup surfing, and how did you get into that?
I've been paddle surfing since 2012, so really not that long. Is that 14 years? 14 years now.
Is that it? Jeez, man, you're ripped for that sort of it. Did you surf before that?
I grew up in Mexico, and we would boogie board, and I buddies have surfboards, and I dabbled, and I'll say just barely. Like, I could stand up on a board, I could catch waves on the boogie board. I learned the ocean. It's beach culture, so you go to the beach once in a while. But I was living in Calgary, and my sister at the time, she had a kiteboard school in the Riviera Maya. And so I went down, and I was in between. I was working construction and training and fighting at the time, but I went down to visit them 2008, and I just finished watching Step into Liquid, watching Laird Hamilton, and I like, oh, who's that guy? Big bulky dude. Like, oh, who's that guy? He seems pretty cool, big wave surfer. I read his book, and he was paddleboarding. I was like, man, that paddleboarding looks kind of cool. And again, whatever it was, the image of the big dude, whatever it was. So fast forward in 2008, I'm at the beach, and this gentleman has a paddleboard, and I'm just looking at it like, oh, that's a paddleboard.
Down in the Riviera?
Down in Mexico. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He showed up to my sister's school. He had the paddleboard, and so, I really want to try that thing, and let me take it out for a spin. And I was flailing, I was falling, I was doing everything. It was brutal. But I was so like,
we all got to be kooks in the beginning, right?
That's it, man.
We're all kooks. Yeah.
But tried it randomly, pure luck, caught a wave just out of pure dumb luck. And I remember standing on this thing, looking around, and I couldn't believe how easy I caught it. It was still really hard. But from that moment, I took the board back, and something, a seed was planted, something was planted, because then I went back to Calgary. So from 2008 to 2012, which is a window, I was in Calgary training, was fighting, I was like city life in the prairies.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no ocean there. Maybe a bit of river surfing, maybe, I don't know.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because I was looking, and this, I would mention paddleboarding to people, and they'd be kind of, huh? It wasn't a thing yet. Really, it wasn't a thing in Canada. Maybe on the island it was starting, or maybe on the East Coast.
Yeah, it might have been starting around that time.
Yeah.
But early on, for sure.
Because I know obviously Hawaii and Cali, and it was already kind of a big deal then. Like, there's already, like, Kai Lenny was already a world champion by then. There's such a big scene, but, it came late to Canada. And then 2012, I moved out to the island in the pursuit of, I really want to surf. I'm done with city life. I want to catch waves, and I bought a paddleboard. That was the first thing I bought moving out there.
Oh, what size of paddleboard did you pick up to start?
It's an NSP 10 foot by 29, so it was a narrow board.
This is what everybody does, right? Yeah.
Dude, yeah. I didn't know it. I walked into a store. Someone's like, oh yeah, this store down on Government down in Victoria. Go down there and they'll have paddleboards. Like, okay. Yeah, and I walked in, and the guy saw me a mile away, like 100. He's what are you looking for? Looking for a paddleboard? Yeah, that one right there. I'll give you a deal on it. It's like, okay.
He's been trying to get rid of it for 3 years.
Yeah, probably. But man, I love that board. I caught some of my most favorite waves still to this day on that board, and I got my ass handed to me on that board.
Oh yeah. Those things are dangerous, right? Those big boards. Now you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wore it off the noggin a couple times. Yeah, it was good though.
So my first board was a 10-foot Laird soft top.
Oh yeah.
Pretty good boards, like 130 liter maybe. But I've never gone as fast. Like that board moved. If you got going down the line on a big wave, fast, so fast.
10 foot, so long. Yeah, you're flying.
Yeah, I kind of miss those days. Now I gotta pump.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get that natural glide. Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
But the big boards teach you it all, and those are the good old days. The pure, no BS, no. I'm just having you still should just be having fun, but once you start getting your mind over technique and learning, it's a different approach now.
Yeah, it sucks in any sport once your head gets too much in the way of yourself and you take it a bit too seriously. It's nice to just
fully, man,
go for it, right?
Yep.
So how about I'm surprised you've been surfing as little as time wise. I thought you'd have been surfing much longer based on your skill level. How have you learned over that time period? Do you have coaches coaching you?
I've been able, not directly. I've been really fortunate. Catherine, I worked with Catherine Breweiler for years.
Yeah.
Still, when I go back to Tofino in the summers, I help her out, her and Zach, with Tofino Paddle Surf. She's pretty awesome paddle surfer, and I got to spend a lot of time with her, chatting with her, paddling there. I got to work, I had a few coaching sessions with Shannon Brown, the Team Canada head coach.
Nice.
But then luckily, her Catherine's son, Caleb Breweiler, just chatting. I absorb, and I love when they talk to me. I think I annoy them sometimes because I'm always asking them technical questions, but I've been really fortunate to sit with really high level surfers and just pick their brains and get tips here and there. And I pieced it together, to be honest. A lot of it trying to piece my own stuff together and trying to, just absorb whatever information's out there from other coaches. But I haven't really been able to work directly long term with a coach.
Right. Just picked up bits and pieces along the way.
Yeah, along the way.
Do you study videos online of other surfers, paddleboard surf, all that stuff? Yeah.
All of it. Yeah, I spend a lot of time watching videos and, of all levels. You develop an eye for it. Then I watch people in the break. I watch my students, and then I'll watch all type of surfing. I'll watch a lot of, mid-length to performance longboarding to paddle surfing, shortboarding, sure. But I believe watching things a bit more relative to our board dimensions and maybe the style of surfing. But I watch a lot of that. And then there's a couple coaches there's a couple programs I'm linked into that I kind of see how they're wording things and try and piece what I can. Yeah,
I love studying videos of. It's hard. There's not a ton of content on sup surfing, I find. There's what 50 times more, 100 times more content of surfing, so it's easier to get videos. But I love, watching that stuff in slow motion on repeat, and you get these sort of things ingrained in your mind. I think
fully
in your body. It's cool.
I don't know about you, but I'm a visual learner. That's my predominant way.
Yeah.
I need to visualize and do.
Yeah.
Hearing it, I'll talk, and sometimes if the person's wordy, I just sometimes I get lost. But I'm visual. Show me how that's supposed to look, And I'm that way. Videos I can really understand. And
yeah. What do you think makes a good coach? It sounds like you had some really positive experiences with the coaching in your early athletic endeavors, I'm guessing. And, it's its own craft, right? Coaching. What do you think makes a good coach?
My opinion personally, coaching, I tell people this, coaching is connecting. I really care about where the athlete is and where they want to go, but I also care what they need to know. I care about their outcome primarily, right? I think that is very important. It's the greatest coaches in my experience. My coaches cared. They cared about how I was progressing. They're not going to put you in a position of, get yourself set further back in any way. It's always moving forward, and then tell you what you need to know. But I think caring is primary trait, I believe.
Nice. And let's move into some of the specifics about what you typically work on with your students, your athletes that you're working with. And probably, you tell me, but you're probably primarily working with beginners and maybe moving into some intermediate levels. But
yeah,
what are some of the key things that you find yourself teaching folks to help them progress in their sup surfing?
A lot of it, I do. I've done a ton of beginners, and now I'm into the advanced beginner, into the intermediate range. That's what I'm targeting now. But the biggest thing is ocean knowledge. Like there's surprisingly a lot of people aren't in. Oh, actually, a lot in the paddle world. It's funny because you're going to get a lot of inlanders, mainlanders, people that are
Calgarians.
Yeah, man, like not around the ocean that often. They get out on these surf trips once in a while. That's surprisingly me. It's a big number.
It's weird. It's weird. Just to pause on there, because I'm baffled by that. Like I was in Portugal last year at Malca Lodge, where you did some coaching as well. We didn't overlap there, but I don't know. Most of the people on the course just travel to these camps. They live inland in Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
And it blows me away. Yeah. And they're pretty good. They're pretty good at it. I don't know how you progress without having the ocean next door.
Yeah, it's a wild one. It's a tricky one. But yeah, when I was there, Germany, Switzerland, a couple of Germany. Where else do we have? Yeah, very landlocked humans.
Yeah. So sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking about ocean knowledge, and that being something that's maybe a hurdle for some of those folks that live inland.
Well,
surprisingly,
it's a hurdle, but even with the range that I'm working at, it's overlooked. At times, like people go out and they scratch for waves, they get on waves, and they try their best without really knowing what they're trying to do. And so a lot of the big stuff that I'm talking about or reintroducing is ocean knowledge. Surfing is timing, positioning, but understanding the playing field, really understanding the playing field, and you have more power with more awareness. You have more control with more awareness of what's going on. So bringing that into the forefront, not getting too carried away with these terms of top term, these technical, these techniques after the fact.
But at the same time, when you are learning, when you're early in that path, there's so much going on, man. You this awareness of positioning and stuff that you're talking about, which is so important. I mean, there's just like information overload, right? It's hard to bring an awareness up to that level.
But that's where I'll come in and I'll cut the fat, right? It's pay attention to this one thing. Don't look beyond. Understand what the wave is doing. Lefts, rights, close-ups. What is the wave doing? How's it developing? Where is it developing? Okay, where do you need to be safe? All right, now we know where we need to be safe. Okay, now where can we bring it in just enough that now we're in that stage where you can catch this wave, like one thing at a time and gain comfort? Because I really don't think jumping a couple of steps and just throwing yourself into waves without understanding is, get you into trouble, and I see it often, hinders technique, injuries, stuff like that. So slowing it down, wave knowledge, ocean knowledge, and then we can get it. Cause you can't, and like, I understand it is overwhelming. People are like, oh, this, that, but again, once you realize you can slow it down, calm it down, you see more. When you see more, you can react quicker. Like when you get your head up and actually open the blinders a bit, you can see, broaden the scope.
I mean, sounds like you're advocating taking step by step, like understand the basics, move on 100%. To the next element, and then perhaps in the end, you'll actually progress faster than jumping into the deep end, maybe. But that's not as much fun. I like the deep end.
Yeah, but you can drown in the deep end, man.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
But
I wear water wings.
But no, people who know me, and I say it, but it's construction. You got to build a proper foundation to build the structure. The foundation needs to be solid, right? And on good footing. It's the same thing. And then I can start building the features and this glamorous structure and this, that, yeah. But the footing and foundation is everything. And wave knowledge is a massive piece of that.
Yeah. What are some other key themes you find yourself teaching at these camps beyond, the early orientation into ocean knowledge?
The big stuff is, we get a lot of teaching people how to paddle effectively and efficiently into waves, both sides, rotation of the body, just creating more dynamic stances and postures and getting the body to open up, because there's a lot of just very rigid on this one linear path, right? We're just kind of, we paddle on the one side, whatever side it may be, and we're just so here. But surfing is everything else. There's so much more to look at. That's one we get working on. So simplifying by, okay, now you're catching waves. What part of the wave are we looking at? Because what part of the wave you're looking at is going to take you to that part of the wave. So just simplify, but you'd be surprised how many people don't want to come off this plane, right? They're just locked in. That's a big one. And footwork's massive too, man. Footwork is really big is that, that transition from paddle stance to surf stance, that is now people catching waves. That's the big one. That's the big one is a lot of people don't fully transition into a proper surf stance, and then they're trying to surf in an inefficient stance and just not the way the board is meant to be pressed on, right? You're creating a line of communication with the board. And if you're sending a text, I tell people like, oh, you're sending a text. If you're pressing the wrong keys, you're sending the wrong message.
That's okay. Yeah.
So you press on the right buttons, hit that the center spot of the board, get towards the tail, the rail. And then the board will wake up, and then the board will be like, okay, I got you. I know what you're trying to say. So understand we need to be in the right spot. So that is a common one. Even with into the intermediate, we've talked about this, but backside, this is all the time. Backside, that front foot stays over. If you're goofy, right? So your right foot stays over to the right a little too much.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm getting better at that.
I bet. Oh, I bet you are, man. You've been working at it.
Yeah. No, I was going to bring that up actually. As soon as you mentioned foot positioning, that's something you've helped me be aware of, because you're right. And maybe it's probably a natural instinct that people have, maybe, where you're going backside, you're dropping down. You want to do your bottom turn and come up the wave. And if you're not turning fast enough, that's kind of where my head goes, right? Like I stomp on that inside rail, and it kind of works sometimes, but you can often bog a rail, right?
No, I do believe it is natural for people, or the majority of people wouldn't be doing it. Mm-hmm. It is a natural. Yeah. It is a natural step. So then back to the coaching is like, I got to push you into this unnatural, uncomfortable position, because that foot needs trust. That foot needs to stay a bit more centered, and the back foot, because where you steer from just teaching that and kind of nudging people into that. Because then once you feel it, you feel it. But that is the problem, is people don't want to transition fully out of a paddle stance, because having their feet side by side facing forward is natural. We stand like that every day. We don't stand like this and try and go this direction with our feet sideways. That's not natural. So teaching those positions.
And the other critical thing about that was my takeaway, is more or less leaving that front foot, be on the stringer, have that weight kind of balanced in the middle of the board, more or less, mm-hmm. And such that all the activity, all the steering is in your back foot, going from fin to fin on different sides. And what you helped me understand is that you're not unweighting that front foot and moving it, because as soon as you unweight the front foot, you end up stalling and slowing down, which was like a mind-blown epiphany for me. So that was awesome.
Well, that's that thing, is people, that understanding, like once you shift back to boxing, right? To I gotta place weight on my front foot to slide the back foot, vice versa. But it can have, positive. Well, I'm going to stay anchored and stacked over the front, and allows my back foot to float around. But then, the reverse, when you get too heavy on the back foot, and you have no real need to be shuffling the front foot around, other than minor adjustments forward, back, mm-hmm. down the middle, side to side. I don't feel you need to.
Yeah. Any other lessons or tips that you find yourself sharing with intermediate surfers that are trying to rip on the wave?
Well, now when you're getting into turns, the big one is two is, free yourself. How to explain it? Of the paddle. Like a lot of the paddle is, gets us in the wave, but a lot of people will depend on the paddle. they'll anchor, they'll touch water, and they think they have to be touching water, and that can angle the shoulders in a way that applies pressure on a rail or your body part, and you're trying to go the opposite way, but your shoulders are going that way. Line of communication is a bit fuzzy now. So freeing the paddle up and understanding you're still surfing, right? Now we use the paddle, you're in the wave, you're surfing, which is body to board connection. The paddle is only there to amplify and assist through a maneuver. It's not to create a maneuver. That's all done with good foot position, body position, placement in the wave. That's the way you execute a turn in surfing. Now the paddle is there to push through at the tail end or to brace, etc. But teaching people that are starting to turn and maneuver to free themselves up, and the shoulders need to rotate in a certain direction, and that the kinetic chain is now in effect, right? So turning the shoulders goes down to the hips, the knees, the heels, hips, the knees, the toes, whatever it may be. But get off the paddle, because that can hinder that rotation. It can hinder the turn more than they think. So introducing that, look where you want to turn. You're really targeting, if you're doing on the bottom turn, you're back up, looking at the top of the wave, targeting the top turn, right? As you're approaching the top of the wave, you start to bring it back down to your next target, like getting the head leading the way. That's a big introduction as well. And it's minor, I've had a few guys, we're working on some pretty radical turns, and we're doing some more, the classic kind of like layback tail slide. They're working on that, or the cross bow cutback at the top of the wave into the rebound. Been working there, but a lot of it is just introducing mechanics, introducing just that trust in yourself. Let the body flow, let it follow its head, and let it do its thing. And you just see people kind of have that, oh yeah, that does work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you about this specific part of surfing technique. Maybe it's going to get too granular, I don't know. But so roundhouse cutbacks.
Yep.
We're surfing backside, and then we're cutting back to the pocket, rebounding off the foam, and turning back onto our heel side.
Yes, sir.
Tell me if I've got this right. I see in the uniqueness of the paddle surfing, I think we have three options. One, you can sort of sweep the paddle and kind of pull yourself off the foam and then turn back. Two, and I think this is what maybe you used to do more often, is like, don't put your paddle in the water, but just carry the paddle normally and then turn your shoulders, right? And then three is this paddle switch, which would open your shoulders to come off of that foam. Is that the way you see it? Are there, I see that as the options to be maybe considering as I'm cutting back.
Yeah, I think, again, so there's a lot of emphasis on the paddle. I think, understanding you've done your rebound, you got, up, hit your target on the way back to the white water. Targeting white water. The white water is what you're rebounding off of. So it's more important to create a good angle with the board and white water to redirect you. What I personally do is, I would rarely have it on my heel side. That's a little too aggressive. Perhaps that's if I want to blow the tail, if I want to go a little bit extreme. Because now think of your anchoring point. It's on the heel side. Now that's a lot of weight, you're going to free a lot of weight, right? So that could be an aggressive or more radical approach to that. But I would, on my way up to the white water, I've started to redirect. I've kind of led with the paddle, but then it's just like push, right? But I've initiated the turn surfing. So I've exposed the board to the white water. I've started to rotate away, but I've rotated. As I'm rotating, I push away with the paddle. Recenter the shoulder, and I drive back the other way. But it's, again, surf first, paddle second. Expose and push.
And when I watch the pros and the world level subsurfers, they seem to be doing that a lot, using that, surfing through the turn, but using that paddle to drive off of the lip, but making sure their shoulders come around. And that's what I find it kind of interesting. I'm getting a bit better at that, just really looking back to where I want to go.
Epic.
But it's funny too, because your shoulders, when you have that paddle sort of pulling at the way behind you, your shoulders are facing backwards or sideways for a little bit, right? And your head
A little bit.
It's just awkward. It's weird.
Well, that's why, you talk to any hardcore surfer and they can't stand paddle surfing, right? Because it's so contrary to surfing, right? Because surfing is going to allow you to free the arms up, and you're always behind your shoulders and arms, and your arms are just unweighting. Or the paddle, that's the thing, man. When you start progressing, the paddle, you got to be very aware of where it is, because it can really hinder the maneuver. As much as it can help, it can hinder. It's a fine line. And I believe that I see very paddle heavy surfers, and they trail a little too long. And like you say, the shoulder's a little too, in the wrong direction. And that's applying weight. That stalls the board. They've slowed down. They've lost momentum. It's a chain reaction to poor paddle position. So my view, again, you're surfing, paddle second. Like your turns should be doable without the paddle. The paddle amplifies and it creates a bit more flair, a little bit more push. But if it wasn't there, you should be able to finish the turn. There's a couple angles where maybe you're trailing it a little bit and so on, but for the most part, again, there's exceptions for sure, but for the most part, you really should be able to finish without the paddle. It should be on rail. Like a board is meant to be on rail. It's not supposed to be on tail. And there's a lot of people that like tail slide, because they'll trail the paddle and the tail will slide out. That's not a rail turn. So competitive surfing, if you watched any of that ISA, there's a lot of, they weren't doing it as much this year, but I was watching 2019 in El Salvador, and a lot of tail slides. They sit back on the paddle and blow the tail out. And visually it's like, oh wow, yeah, their leg extended. It looks dynamic. But there's no real power involved. They shave off all their speed. It's tough to get the flow out of it. Real surfing is done on rail. The odd little blowtail.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. So did you chatted with Leiko in El Salvador?
A little bit. Yeah. It's funny, man, because I think I was one of the older surfers there. But I was like a little kid, man, just around all those guys, because I've been watching them all for years. And Leiko, he was my first favorite sup surfer. When I saw him surf, he's like the first world champion. He's such a gem, man. He's rips. Yeah, it's so cool that he's still surfing so well. But his backhand, he's the king, man. I love his backhand.
So good.
Good. Well, I surfed a heat with him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had some brutal draws for that.
Dude,
that comp, the ISA Worlds.
I had 3 world champions. I had 3 world champions. Literally, I had Benoit in my first one. And then the second one, it's the second heat I've surfed with Sebastian Gomez. It's the second one.
Wow. Yeah.
I surfed against him. I should say I surfed against him. I was in the water
You were in the
them.
water. Nice.
I didn't surf against them. And then Leiko, yeah.
Did you any big takeaways that you can talk about when you've been around that top tier elite surfers?
Their positioning, their again, wave knowledge. I'm going to tie the two, like this and the coaching in, because what I teach is what I really do believe is so important. When I watch these guys, their wave knowledge is so amazing, and their efficiency, and then their selection of wave and where they place themselves and how little and how effortless they paddle. And just, I've seen this over the years in Tofino with all the pros that I get to surf around, watching them paddle you're trying to, like, what are they doing? What are they going for? And all of a sudden this wave is standing up, like, how do they see that? That was just so amazing what they see, how they position. And that's it's beyond the turns. It's not beyond. It's prior to all the radical maneuvers they're producing. It's their wave knowledge and ocean knowledge is just like Benoit. I think Benoit, he's my guy. Like, he's my GOAT, I think, at the time. Not GOAT, but he's pretty darn good. But watching him pick waves out and how he was always on a great wave. It was just,
he got some amazing scores. I quite enjoyed watching him.
Yes.
I've found in the past, I really like his longboard SUP.
Yep.
I think he's just super slick on the longboard, but I quite enjoyed his short SUP this go round.
It's pretty much a competition amongst the top 6. It was, the rest of us are just, who is this Jake guy from Canada? Come on. They don't care. I have no one, man. I'm a filler. I'm just a name on the sheet to just get through.
So tell us about competitions. Do you enjoy that? Why do you? And it's kind of cool. I mean, not to gloss it over, but you've represented Canada on a couple of occasions, I think, at these international events. So good job. Must be some proud moments to do that.
As an athlete, what a dream to represent your country. You know, at the world stage. You know, I do wish I could put a better performance out and you know, do a better job. You know, coming into the sport late, I know what I know and I can surf how I surf, and I'm just lucky I'm in the top level in Canada and I can compete for that title. But you know, on the world stage, I know where I sit. But it's just such an honor to. That by itself is just an honor, and at my age, and yeah, you know, it's beyond surfing. It's just like I get to go wear the flag, do my best.
Cool.
Heck yeah.
What about talk to us a bit about paddling around? You mentioned how the pros are just maybe next level in terms of maneuvering about. You know, one being knowing where to be, but it sounds like you're talking about just their paddling ability and balance and whatever maneuverability maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely good. I'll come back to 2022 when I went to Puerto Rico, and that I was more impressed then because I've never seen guys on such tiny boards. You know, I surfed beside Luis Diniz, the champion, and I watched him just stand there as a wave went over him and just pop back up to the side. Just like,
so cool.
Did I just see that? I think I just saw that. You know, just
I've seen videos of like Kai Lenny doing that.
Yeah. I've pulled it off a couple times, but I was like, I think I was so excited on the other end, I fell. But no, they were pulling it out all the time. Just so that year was quite impressive. Cool. This year, now it's kind of old news, but there's a couple guys actually. The one guy I took the most from was a Tahitian rider. He's from Tahiti, and he's a big guy too. And his paddling ability, he was like a born paddler. Those Tahitians, man, that's all they do. I shouldn't say that's all they do, but they're, you know, the best paddlers in the world. And watching him stroke into some of these waves, just his stroke was just so clean and powerful, and it looked like he's barely paddling and getting into these gems of waves. That I probably took more from him than anybody in that whole trip.
Huh. So anything specific? Deepening
the stroke, you know. So I'm guilty of it. My catch, I'm guilty of, you know, prematurely pulling back on the catch phase. So I'll create splash instead of like, and one thing I was really noticing is he catches, he's in, pulls. He makes sure he's in, pulls. Everything was so super clean. And so that's one thing. Since then, every day I work on that, and I feel like.
So, and we could talk for hours about paddling technique. It's just like amazingly nuanced, I think. But, you know, I have been working a little bit on that catch, that kind of micro hold, like let the water gather on the paddle and then engage core. It's, you know, a side core. And are you bending your knees to drive the paddle down? Is that something you're focusing on?
Yeah, I'm back to, he like sinks. I was watching, he's like, his whole body's committed. So yeah, just dropping the body behind the paddle a bit more. And I feel, big.
Cool.
It's funny. I think he was using a bit shorter of a paddle than I'm using, like for compared to body height. I think his was a bit lower. So that helps.
Where do you cut your paddle now?
Yeah, mine's about forehead.
Forehead.
I
think I'm around bridge of my nose. And okay, so he has a shorter paddle than you.
A bit shorter, yeah.
Relatively.
Yeah.
And what about, that affects reach, right? You're not going to...
It affects the point of catch, right? So it might be harder to get a shorter paddle past the nose, for example. You know, that I think the point of catch. But reach, in the end, I think if you have forward angle on the stroke, on the start of your stroke, that's what we're looking for. You know, everything in front of you. So I don't think does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's I think he's just like falling in, but he just had that body, and he's a big dude, so he just fell into it. Very big guy. So I look at big guys, you know.
Yeah, because if people don't know already, you're a stocky MMA type guy.
Yeah.
If I can call you that.
It's all in the head, but it's top heavy.
Dude, you're solid. You're solid. What are you personally working on in your sup surfing right now?
Targeting better. You know, I one thing that was a big takeaway watching. You know, I know my wave selection was the best. My free surfs were so much better that trip. But, you know, the big take watching those guys, you know, like going vertical, like, and I'm not making a career out of competition surfing, but that is the criteria. And that is, you know, that high level and going into the lip with a better angle, nose as vertical as possible, but just trying to target my sections better. That's what I want to do. And just kind of keeping all my turns a bit higher. I'm trying to, you know, higher rebounds off my cutback, more vertical entries, just those little details, and just trying to place things better, be a bit more patient.
I'm not there yet, but I'm quite interested in getting towards a vertical style of surfing. Mm-hmm. And the thing that intimidates me, I mean, you start going steep on a pitching lip, and obviously what I understand is you need to start turning, you know, before you get to that lip. And then, you know, I think the nose of the board, I think it gets easier to turn once your nose is above the lip, from what I'm gathering. But my point is, my fear is, okay, well, it's pitching, you're turning, and that's a steep drop, right?
Yeah.
I guess. What's the strategy there to, you know, work towards a vertical turn, but make it out?
Commit, man. It's really committing to it. I know that moment that's where that mental hurdle, because you start to realize that's what I want. I want that lip. Now I seek that lip coming at me because I know that's what I need. Because if you do it any earlier, right? If it's not coming at you, and I'm guilty of it, you know, my second ride on my final heat, I did that. I went to the lip, but there's nothing coming back. So I went off the back of the wave.
You fall off the back, yeah.
You know, so now it's like, okay, I need this thing because I know it's going to help me. So it's going to take you a couple of times to really throw it up and try, but committing to the up, rotating away, and you'd be, wow, I came out of that. I just came out of that. You know, you'll have a moment like, oh my God, I can do that. And then you just, then it becomes the normal. And then you start looking for critical sections. You start looking for things coming at you more, which you didn't think you would. That what used to intimidate you motivates you.
Well, that's the learning process, right? Like it's a fear of the unknown and fear of injury and whatever. But then once you have those little light bulbs, you're like, hey, that worked.
You know, man,
I could do that again.
But injury, it comes from a lot more injury will come from hesitation and pulling back. You know, sometimes committing to, you know, we're trying to sync up with the flow of a wave, right? It's dynamic. It's the way it's moving. We're trying to roll with it. We're trying to surf with it. The more you go against it, it puts you in maybe a vulnerable position, right? So I believe go with it, roll with it. That's how I see it. Yeah, because most times you fall is you hesitated or sure, bad technique. The foot's here, but I'm going up into the lip. Okay, my foot's in the corner of the pad because that's where it needs to be. Because I need to press on it to expose the nose, and when I turn, I need to press on it because back to your vertical entry, I need to step on that tail to make sure I don't pearl on the way back down.
Right, and then the other. I mean, I'm not doing that at all. Don't get me wrong, but a little bit more critical, higher top turns. And again, I'm surprised, like, oh, that worked. But then one of the key pieces is not staring down at my nose as I'm coming down a steeper face, looking up.
Yeah.
And then like, I'm not looking at, I don't know what my board's doing really. I'm looking up and then like, oh shit, I got through that.
It's following you. Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah. It's following you. It's listening to what you're saying. It's that line of communication. It's I've compressed, I've leaned, I've rotated. I'm going up. I've rotated away, and it's like my board's like, I got you, man. Let's do this.
Yeah.
You're putting me where I want to be. I got you. This is how.
Do this.
Yeah.
I will do this for you.
Yeah. Okay. What else? What else can I do, sir?
I love it. Okay, so you're working on some vertical stuff. Anything else? You mentioned the paddling.
Yeah, always brushing up on paddling. And then on my longboarding, just, trying to, my nose rides, I want to do a couple, Tofino, we have our longboard and our shortboard comp. And yeah, I want to keep brushing up on my longboard. Me, primarily, I like the shortboarding. I have a 7.8, not that short. But the longboarding for me is what sup surfing is about. I like, big boards, long rail line. I think the paddle has more of a place with the bigger boards. So doing a lot of longboarding as well. Trying to mix up the turns with the nose rise, trying to like have a good variety in the wave.
Yeah. I need to spend. I've been mostly on my shortboard is a 711, and I have a 9-footer.
Dude,
that I got to spend more time on it, but I'm just like really been working on the balance and the
mix it up, man.
I love how. Yeah, I know.
Mix it up. Get that longer rail line. It just makes you move, and it gives you a different glide and placement in the wave, and you just open it up. Don't get too stuck on one piece of equipment. Whether even like. Man, shortboarders are hilarious. I know shortboarders in their 60s, that's all they do is shortboard, and they're so miserable when it's small, but they can't, you're just going to open up all the opportunities and all the wave types, and it only sharpen technique in all the other ways, and do it. Get on your 9-foot.
Oh yeah. There's so much to do though, man. There's only so much time, but no, I'm on it. Why don't you tell us a bit about what you've got going on now with the, what's your company called? Oso Paddle Surf?
Oso Paddle Surf. Yeah.
Oso Paddle Surf. Oso meaning bear, I think, which is probably your nickname.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No. But it was.
This is your MMA, your ring name.
Yeah. No. The Oso. Yeah. I should have took that. I forget. I don't even have a name, man. But Oso is bears. I love bears, and that just kind of Oso bear in Spanish covers the the tropics. Oso bear covers Tofino. Covers the Canadian, covers this, covers it all. Let's go with that.
Nice. So, but you still have you've got a YouTube channel. I think that's under
Coach Jake. Yeah,
that's Coach Jake. So you've got some cool little instructional clips on there.
Yeah. And the primary goal with that is just putting material out there. And because I've heard that there's not much material out there, and I've gotten really good feedback from people, and the stuff I put out is relatable to most paddle surfers. People trying to progress. I'm not of that high end Sebastian Gomez on 20-foot barrels, and I'm not, it's a bit more relatable, which is awesome. I love, and I love the conversations I have with people from it and the feedback. But then the program itself, Oso Paddle Surf, is the program. So I have a program involved. I have a 1 to 4, level 1 to 4. That is something I want to grow over time more. And eventually I was talking with Tiago at Mauka Lodge over creating a program. We talked about it. I've started it with Oso, and people, they go through the program at camp, and it's 1 to 4, setting the foundation, giving people, they come to camp and they have a good idea where they're at and where they're going to go and what they need to work on to so on. And whether people want to follow the program wholeheartedly, but it gives them a nice guideline of their progression.
Is that available yet, or you're working on it?
I work on it. Yeah. People will get it when they come to camp.
Oh,
so
cool.
So we go over, a lot of it is level 1. There's been a couple of surfers that have gone into the level 2, have advanced, but most people, it's because it's like jiu-jitsu. If you know anything about it, the white belt is the hardest belt to get. But it's starting, and then it's just the foundation of it all. And then you start advancing through the belt system with that base knowledge. So, but my level 1 is, again, the knowledge, safety, ocean, waves, beach, so on. And then technique is, just basic paddling, and trimming down the wave essentially in the level 1. But yeah.
Cool. And these camps are based out of Nosara?
My Nosara season, yeah. My goal is to have them in more locations. That's the end goal. But yeah, the primary camps, the bulk of the season is in Nosara. I run my Tofino camps under the Oso banner. And then, looking at some other options here down the road. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Yeah. What's next for you then?
Next week on the 9th, I work with Joss Alabi, in El Salvador. I'm doing a camp there with her. Yeah. So that's the thing. That's where the Coach Jake comes in now. Now it's, I get to travel and I go work with her. April, I go out to Portugal with Tiago and Mauka. June, I go to moon tours, go to the Maldives and some other stuff. So that's where I kind of become the free agent, and I can go wherever. And
You're building quite a nice lifestyle there, man.
And
it's impressive.
I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful I get to cruise around and coach, man. And I'm getting good enough at it that people want to work with me, which is a dream.
Yeah. No, you're a great coach.
Appreciate that. But it's just a dream come true, man. I love chatting with people. I love it, and it just keeps going. And I just got to keep, I got to keep on top of my game. Keep it going, and just keep progressing in my own way, so I can give people the right information, keep them growing.
Awesome, man. Well, good job. It's impressive what you've got going, and thanks for doing this with me. And all the best to you on all these coaching endeavors.
Yeah, man, appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for your stoke, man. I love that you're doing this.
Pura Vida. Thanks, Jake. And thank you to everyone for listening. Please visit supsurfsessions.com to learn more about the podcast as well as Jake's coaching retreats. You can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Catch you all later.
And then perhaps in the end, you'll actually progress faster than jumping into the deep end, maybe. But I mean, that's not as much fun. I like the deep end.
Yeah, but you can drown in the deep end, man.
Yeah, that's fair enough.